Next up, a focus on dual citizenship and what options are available to South Africans who want to explore the possibility of getting a second passport. Whether it's out of concern for this country's future or perhaps for reasons of business expansion, perhaps educational opportunities for your children, many families are contemplating the option. But not everybody has the benefit of an ancestral link that delivers that magical second passport. And this is where citizenship by investment programs become an option for those who can afford the hefty price tag that comes with them. Just to chat to us today about what is available, how they are accessed, and some of the big picture aspects to dual citizenship, I'm delighted to welcome on the line Micha Emmett, who is a South African-born businesswoman, CEO of CS Global Partners, which is a global legal advisory firm that specializes in dual citizenship. She's with us on the line from Namibia, and fingers crossed we hope the phone lines will hold up for the interview. Micha, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, good afternoon, Pippa, and to all your listeners. Thank you so much for having us on the show today.
It's a great, great pleasure. And phone line sounding nice and clear, touch wood. Let's hope it stays that way. Micha, I know there has been quite a marked interest, increase in interest in dual citizenship, and not just from your own firm. Just this very morning, I heard from Henley and Partners. They've seen a 25% uptick in inquiries, particularly since the start of COVID. I know your firm has seen an increase. Let's talk a little bit about the reasons before we dive into what kind of citizenship where. I mean, is it because people are feeling pessimistic about South Africa's future? Is it because COVID has impacted the local business market and they're looking for opportunities elsewhere? What else do you attribute the rise in demand to?
Well, I mean, I think COVID has played a huge role in the way South Africans are looking at dual citizenship. But it's not just South Africans. Interestingly enough, we're seeing interest from around the world. And, the question we have to ask is why? Why are people looking at options of dual citizenship? And I think there are a number of reasons. With COVID, what's come to light is how governments have dealt with the problem, whether it's, from a health perspective, a medical perspective, or from an economic perspective. So dual citizenship really gives the individual and his family a second option. It's a choice, a plan B.
Okay, so if I'm hearing correctly, maybe people feeling somewhat disillusioned with how things have been handled in their current place of birth and just wanting to hedge their bets with a fallback somewhere else. For some, it's a lifestyle decision, Micha. They want ease of travel. I know if you're sitting in South Africa, visas are expensive, long-haul flights are expensive. If you have the option of jumping off from a country that's closer to the places you want to travel to, it is attractive for those who can afford it. So let's talk a little bit here about just distinguishing what we're talking about. We're talking dual citizenship, not emigration. You don't have to give up your South African passport in order to acquire citizenship of another country, not so?
Correct. So as a South African, you are entitled to dual citizenship. There is a route or a process you have to take if you're over the age of 18 and looking to obtain a second citizenship. But what we're in the business of, providing a global footprint to a person through the use of a second citizenship. And what's so wonderful about it is you can become a citizen of a country, for example, like the Commonwealth of Dominica or St. Kitts and Nevis, without needing to leave South Africa. So, our clients and the people we work with actually quite enjoy the solutions we provide because you can do it from the comfort of your home, but you still have that sort of sense of safety and security that you've got the second citizenship, which then allows you the ease of mobility. Now, I'll talk a little bit about mobility because you touched on it in your question. So traditionally, I think the citizenship by investment route was often focused on the aspect of mobility. And so it's a very important part of it, of being able to sort of reach major business hubs where you can do business. And that also opens opportunities up for South African business persons to have more of a global footprint out there.
Okay, and when we're talking citizenship by investment, let's clarify what sort of investment we're talking, Micha. For some countries, buying property there is the foothold to get in. For others, it's if you go there and open a business and employ a certain number of people or invest a certain amount of capital, that is enough to secure, if not outright citizenship, then certainly residence. Those are the two I'm broadly aware of. Are there any other sort of forms of investment I should mention there?
Correct. So residence is usually has a wider choice of options. In the citizenship by investment realm, we generally see two types of investment options. And the first is, as you rightly mentioned, real estate. But the second option is a donation to the country, and this is usually at a lower investment level than your real estate investment, and it's basically sort of showing a significant contribution to the government to then become a citizen of the country. So that can vary. I mean, in Dominica, it's an investment of $100,000, which sounds like quite a lot, but when you compare it with the route of residence in Portugal, for example, which is at least a minimum of 350,000 euros, and that's just residence, and it's a 5-year journey. In fact, the investment cost is quite attractive on the sort of the Caribbean options. And then, of course, you've got the European programs. They're all undergoing some changes right now, but those investment thresholds are 5-6 times the amount of the Caribbean.
I mean, the Caribbean I find fascinating because when I was reading up ahead of this interview, places like Grenada offering visa-free travel to China. So there's a launching point for somebody who wants to expand into China to consider. And the bonus, Micha, is when it comes holiday time, there's a lovely tropical island in the Caribbean waiting for you to go and explore. The number of countries that are offering this kind of program is perhaps bigger than people might expect. I think South Africans might be vaguely aware of Portugal. Many are aware of the fact that Mauritius is an investment opportunity for us, for those who want to get a foot there. You've mentioned Dominica. Any other countries that you would add to the list that might surprise our listeners?
Sure. Well, I mean, in the direct citizenship by investment route, there are about 12 countries around the world that offer this type of program. But in terms of trusted programs, we tend to look towards the Caribbean, where citizenship by investment was born. So St. Kitts and Nevis is the oldest citizenship by investment program in the world. It started in 1983 and is still considered one of the best programs in the world. I mentioned the Commonwealth of Dominica, which was voted in the last 3 years number one citizenship by investment program by Financial Times PWM magazine. There are other countries in the Caribbean, so as you mentioned, Grenada, St. Lucia, Antigua, and then if you look Europe, you've got Malta, Montenegro. There are a bunch of countries, but going back to the Caribbean, you're dealing with countries that have run these programs for many years. They're offering a solution to a beautiful, safe environment. So it's certainly worth South African listeners to consider and research Caribbean citizenship in more detail, because it offers so many benefits, both in terms of the process of applying, but also in terms of the benefits once you become a citizen of this country.
So let's elaborate, because I think it's important to expand here that it's not just about access to that country that you're becoming a citizen of. It's the jumping off point it offers you to the rest of the world, Micha.
Correct. So, I mean, in Europe, of course, if you become a European citizen, you have access to the European Union. In the Caribbean, you have access to the CARICOM. As you mentioned, with Grenada as well as with Dominica, you get visa-free travel to China. Now, if you're a business person, suddenly the world really opens up and gives you a number of options available to you. And I've had so many clients phone me up, after they've received their citizenship, and a few months later they call and they go, "Thank you so much. You have transformed my life," because suddenly they just have new options. They've opened up their world, and not just for themselves, but also for their families in terms of their children, because of course they can hand down the citizenship to their children and their children's children as it goes on.
Okay, that's an important aspect. As I said at the start,
Sure.
Not everybody has the benefit of an ancestral passport link delivered to them at birth. We should ask whether there are any potential pitfalls to applying for a second passport, Micha. Is there any reason you shouldn't do it or should think twice about where you do it? Is there anything about this process that potentially jeopardizes anything about your relationship with your home country or your future travel options in any way?
Excellent question. So there are two ways to look at that. The first is obviously you need to consider what the laws of your country are. So there are some countries in the world that only allow single citizenship. So of course, if you apply for a second citizenship, what are the consequences for you? As I mentioned earlier in the conversation with South Africa, there is a condition, but you can overcome that quite easily. And then in terms of choosing a good program, it's a very important decision to make. You want to be looking at programs that have been run for a very long time, that are trusted, that have a very strong due diligence that they do on their applicants. And the reason I say that, Pippa, is that you want to be becoming a citizen of a country where all the other citizens that have applied have been well vetted and that are, really legitimate, upstanding individuals. So these are a couple of factors. Also, ease of process. How easy is it to become a citizen? What are the loopholes required? And then, of course, dealing with the right agent. So you want to be dealing with someone who is actually a listed agent who can deal with whichever program it is you're looking at so that they know the ins and outs of the process.
Okay, Micha, very good question that somebody's asking on email. They heard you mention that South Africans over 18 can apply for a second citizenship. They're asking what the impact is for children whose parents might have acquired a second passport when those children turn 18.
So depending on where they have obtained, the parent has obtained their second citizenship, if the child is under 18 and they can obtain citizenship from their parents through descent, then they are entitled to get citizenship without applying to South Africa for special permission. If the child is over 18 or the individual is over 18, then you need to apply for special permission. But, to answer the question, in terms of the legality of it, is you have to see whether you're entitled to pass that citizenship on to your child, depending on where that citizenship is from.
Okay. Micha, is there anything we haven't discussed that I should have asked you about that you think our listeners need to know?
Pippa, I think you've covered everything really well. I believe that, your listeners will have a good understanding of why dual citizenship is so important and also, what the options are out there. As a fellow South African, and now I would consider myself a global citizen, all I can say is that being global gives one sort of a strong sense of belonging. And regardless of the route of dual citizenship that you may take, the reasons always remain the same. So, covering the, safety, security, economic opportunities, quality of life, mobility, financial freedom. I think these are the key takeaways for everyone to think about today.
Micha, if anybody listening to this is twitching and wanting to reach out to you for advice on future decisions, what's the best method for them to do so?
Probably the best way is probably to contact us via our website. So the website is www.csglobalpartners.com. We are London-based. However, we have advisors around the world who are happy to help. We're always available and on a call. We also have a WhatsApp feature on our website. So if you don't want to call, send an email or send us a WhatsApp. That's the best way to contact us, and we'll contact you back. We're happy to sort of help South Africans, find their global footprint.
Micha Emmett, great to have you on the show this afternoon, and thank you so much for your time. Micha is CEO of CS Global Partners. They may be based in London, but as you could hear from her accent, she is South African born. The website is csglobalpartners.com if you'd like to reach out for advice on your own potential dual citizenship query.